Hello, this is the documentary on the Winnipeg General Strike. This was the best-known general strike in Canada and took place in Winnipeg from May 15th to June 24th, 1919.
I am the strike leader of the Metal Worker Company. We demand higher wages, 85 cents an hour, shorter work hours from 60 hours a week to 44 hours a week, and we also want to be recognized as a union.
Employers refused to negotiate the strikers' demands. The Winnipeg Trades and Labor Council spoke for all unions in the city. Noobs.
The strike was caused after World War I, when soldiers had few opportunities for jobs at home. The workers of metal companies wanted a union of the Building Trade Council and Metal Trade Council, but it got refused.
Many people didn't want to strike, but since their co-workers striked, they were forced to follow. The strike mainly started when the people of Manitoba got frustrated by the unemployment, inflation, poor working conditions, and regional disparities. At first, strikers were peaceful, but the opposers were aggressive.
The Citizens Committee was an anti-strike group. They thought that the strike would lead to a communist revolution in Canada and demanded the government to intervene. The strike led to many sympathy strikes in other areas. Toronto had 12,000 people walk off their job, and 10,000 went on strike in Vancouver. On May 15th, delivery of milk and bread ceased. Transportation like buses, trains stopped. Post office workers left. Retail and wholesale clerks left. Restaurants closed, office workers went on strike, and railroad employees left. Now there were over 30,000 workers on strike altogether.
Soon after, the government had stepped in because the Citizens Committee was pressuring them to end the strikes. The government brought in RWMP members and banned public marches from Winnipeg. On June 17th, strike leaders were taken out of their bed and put to gunpoint at Stony Mountain Penitentiary. Workers and soldiers from World War I were seriously outraged. An illegal protest marched down the main street because of anger.
This was an orderly strike at first, but eventually got out of hand on Bloody Saturday. On June 21st, also known as Bloody Saturday, this was probably the most violent day during the Winnipeg General Strike. On that day, NWMP and special constables tried to get strikers to disperse, but couldn't. This made the strikers very angry and started to push over streetcars passing by. This eventually led to a riot with the Mounties, and 2 people were killed in the riot when the NWMP ran to a crowd with their horses. Some of the strikers were also beaten up by baseball bats. On June 22nd, the day after Bloody Saturday, the Army patrolled streets with machine guns to make sure the strikers stayed out of trouble and to stop them from any public marches.
On June 24th, the strike committee called off the strike. In total, 2 people were killed, 30 were wounded, and many people were arrested in the strike. 7 members of the strike were convicted for conspiracy against the government and were sent to prison for 2 years. 5 people were never brought to trial, and 3 of the strikers were not guilty. Even though the workers went on strike, they did not earn anything from it. The strikers and their family were in debt because of the lost wages. To get their jobs back, strikers had to sign a contract saying they would not have anything to do with the union and not hold secrets to it. Some strikers had no jobs and couldn't be rehired because of what they had done. On July 1919, a law was passed that if the strikers were suspected of violence or had anything to do with the union, the police could search their property, violate their personal space, and possibly put them to prison.
Winnipeg did not get a benefit either. Businesses failed because many of their workers were in the strike and they wouldn't rehire them, which meant thousands lost their job. Winnipeg's economy dropped because the city got a huge debt paying the police force during the strike. And it was another 20 years before collective bargaining was recognized in Canada. After the strike, the police and the government found out that the strike was not a chance to revolt, but was a reaction by different living conditions and wages between workers and owners.
We dedicate this extremely short documentary to all you people, especially the ladies, who live in Canada. Directed by Christopher.
Edited by Glendon.
Recorded by Chris and
Glenn.
Copyright of Chris and Glenn, 2008.